Welcome to Fearlessly Made You. I am your host, Kristie Tobias. Joining me today are guests just striving to dominate in their personal and professional lives while answering the question, what does it mean to be fearlessly made? On this episode of Fearlessly Made You, I am just excited and honored to be joined by my dear friend, Desheri McClure, the owner of the Deshi brand, and truly just an absolute genius when it comes to being a beauty guru and also being a fabulous friend. Desh, thank you for joining us on Fearlessly Made You.
Thanks, Kristie. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm so excited because I think there's just such a beauty in who you are as a human and who you are just as a woman and the story you have to tell that I have just been dying to have you on Fearlessly Made You to talk about it. But before we do that, let's do a little cheers. Cheers. So for those of you that are listening, we are, of course, as usual, drinking a little bit of wine. For those of you watching, thank you for watching. You'll notice things look a little different, right? So we're trying to get a little more vibey and have a little bit more fun. So you guys really get to see and understand, what Fearlessly Made You is all about. As a reminder, Fearlessly Made You came from the book Fearlessly Made You, and it's about that conversation around owning your fearlessness. So not necessarily being without fear, but not letting that fear own you. And so it's that conversation that I really think Desh has such a beautiful perspective on. Before we jump in, Desh, I know people want to know who you are. Yes. They want to know a little bit about you. And I'm honored to know so much, but why don't you just share with our Fearlessly Made You crew a little bit about who you are?
So I started in the industry about 13 years ago, and it really morphed when my best friend was diagnosed with breast cancer. And watching her go through that journey and chemotherapy was a little intense, watching a friend go through. But when her doctors gave her a list of ingredients to start avoiding after chemo, this light bulb went off. Like, why are we waiting for people to get diagnosed with cancer before we tell them about these toxins that are in our everyday beauty products? But beauty to me is beauty within that comes out. So we started the Deshi brand with our first little store called Urban Deshi, where we did all non-toxic services. We had an opportunity to move downtown and create these non-toxic services. And now we've just morphed into taking over a spa on the beach and this new opportunity inside of Oyster Bay Boutique Hotel.
Guys, okay, for those of you that do not live in Pensacola, get here now. Let's be honest. So it's so cool because one of the great things is to watch the blossoming of the Desh brand. And it's just so fabulous because I, of course, go to Deshi Nail Salon for my nail needs. But it's more than that. It's what you said. It's during the pandemic, we couldn't go anywhere. And so the simplicity of got to take off my nail polish and all of that. And my nails were the healthiest they've ever been. Right. But I also, when I go there, I feel this energy and this connection to what you're trying to build, as a part of the journey that your friend went through, as a part of the journey that I feel like we are all going through as people and humans. But in knowing that, though, you probably didn't start with that passion and that vision, did you? So I'd love to know kind of where that passion and vision came from and what that background for you looks like.
So I've always been a very creative, free spirit person ever since I was a kid. My mom was a hippie, so we celebrated that. But back in the day when I was in school, the creative vibe wasn't as cool as it is now. So I was kind of marked as a bad kid or a distracted kid just because I saw life differently. And it hit me really hard in my senior year of high school when my principal sat me down in his office and told me that I was not going to amount to anything in my life and I might as well not even go to college. So there was this fear of not being smart enough or not being able to do this. And I would like to say it tried holding me back, but there is this little fireball on the inside of me that nothing's ever going to stop me from being who I am or representing or creating. That's what I enjoy now is the power of creation.
Yes.
And I think as a business owner and entrepreneur and in life now, we saw 2020 And 2021 has brought people like you have got to learn how to tap into your creative being.
Yes.
To explore different things. And it's okay to try something. And so what? It didn't work. You try something different. And over the past couple years, we've seen some things take off and some things not take off. But I love the Fearlessly made you because you don't have to say, well, fear doesn't exist.
Right.
Like we would be lying to ourselves if it doesn't. But fear doesn't own you to a point where it's going to hinder you from stopping. And the knowing inside and tapping into that and trusting that you'll keep going.
Okay, so you've hit on so many things. And for those of you that are listening, and I know there are so many of you who have had that moment where you feel like there's nothing else that you can do, or you feel like something is going to hinder you, like you said, and especially over these past couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
And you and I both know, just watching, and I know this resonates with everyone, not just in Pensacola, but watching the change in businesses in Pensacola, as not only did the pandemic hit us, but we had Hurricane Sally hit us. And you guys, oh my goodness, I know your downtown location took a massive hit. And it was interesting, we can laugh about this now, but being in there where there was no air conditioning and we're all just sweating, we're like, it's fine. It's this sweat is okay.
Right.
We're just
Put the fans on.
We had the fans on.
We played reggae music. We pretended like we had an island vibe.
We pretended nothing, but it was so cool because your entire mindset throughout it all was, we're going to make this work. And I think that mindset is hard, especially right now. You know, everyone's talking about the languishing that people are going through. So it's not, I'm not depressed, I'm not anxious, I'm just don't know what to do. And so knowing you have that mindset, it's so interesting because I know some of the things that you've been through in your life, in the journey, and hearing, first of all, a principal telling a child they're not going to amount to anything. That's a great idea. That's so disrespectful, but also knowing that you had the foundation with your mom.
Yes.
For her to kind of step up for you.
Agreed.
And say, I've got this. And I think we all have to remind ourselves, you know, I talk about the check yourself crew. Who's your step up person? Who's going to help support you and have that conversation? And you've been that for me. But I'd love for you, as you talk about like what that means for you to be fearlessly made, for others who are like, well, how do I get that? Like, how do I go there? I think there's something beautiful and powerful in your journey, the story of your mom, the story of, you know, your family and everything. I'd love for you just to kind of dive into that a little bit, because I think it will be really empowering for those people that are listening and saying, but I don't know, like I've been through too much and I don't know if I can do this.
So everyone's different in the sense of, for me, like we've talked about, I believe in having theme songs.
Yes.
So you find your theme song for the year. You might find one differently. For me, music is a good release for me. My bath time is an excellent release for me.
Yes.
So I'll put my podcasts on and listen to stuff. And once something, which I call like my spirit or my soul, if it tweaks something in there or something lights up, I'll push pause and take a second to meditate on that, or let that creative ideas come out. And that's how we got our solution, which, you know, we're kind of pushing now. Like in the spa industry, I felt a shift happening. And I think that we need to be more intention based in our observation and the way that we live and the way that we communicate and the way that we conduct business. It really needs to be more intention based. And if I truly believe that, what can I create? What space can I create in order to allow people for those moments to happen?
Yes.
And that's kind of where I am now. I put myself through a journey. I go on the journey myself. I live it. I eat it. I breathe it. And I own it, and I want to share it with other people.
I love that. It's such an honest conversation, because I think too, when we don't think about the intentionality of what we're trying to be or create or produce, we find ourselves in this place of almost wanting an instant gratitude in something that we haven't actually put the energy into. I think everyone needs to hear that, myself included. You know, you and I have had many conversations, and this will possibly surprise people. I don't know. But I find myself a lot of times in this space of like, I'm not doing enough or I feel like I'm behind. And a lot of that hits on but how intentional am I being with my time?
Right.
Because that intentionality really helps set the stage for the impact you want to have.
Yeah.
So I love that. And I want to know too for you, you also are kind of passing along a bit of a legacy with your children. And so I think our entire Fearlessly Bougie crew would love to know. There's fun facts. If you're watching, you're going to be like, what? But if you're listening too, if you haven't met Desheri McClure and you don't know a little bit about her family, you're about to learn, because it's just kind of unreal. But talk to us a little bit, Superwoman, about your family.
So I have 6 children. They're all aged 12 to 2. And I had such an incredible mom growing up. She was the mom that would take me to nursing homes to rub, elderly people's feet and hands. And she taught me how to listen to stories because of the wisdom that is in the lives of people. And, from the beginning, when Douglas and I got married, we wanted to make sure that we kind of spent as much time with our kids as possible, because it goes by so fast. And we had the ability to start our businesses, and the kids have been a part of all of our businesses.
Yes.
You're there, Symphony's there, Kavia's there. They help run our downtown store, just like little adults. One thing that popped up with your Fearlessly Made You, and this is what I love about you.
Oh.
And I think it's important for people to see, because, you took such an intense portion of your life and you've turned it into something so golden. And to me, that is fearlessly made. When you can go, like, you feel like you're not doing, like I should be doing this, and this. But when it's an intention-based life and you tap in, you know that this exact time was a divine setup, that me and you were supposed to be talking, all of your other guests that you talk to, and the nuggets that we have on the inside of us to share to help other people. And that's what I would want for my children. And I want them to pass on to their friends, so that even at a young age, they're already thinking of an intention-based living mindset. And it's not like, oh, I'm going to grow up and mature. Like, I still make mistakes as a parent. And I still have to go to my children and say, you know what? I'm sorry. I messed up. But do you remember mommy talking to you about this? Like, mommy's still working on this. But you can teach them as we all grow.
I like that you say we all mess up, because you said something earlier, and it's that conversation around respecting failure. And the word failure terrifies most people. It terrifies me. But what we miss in the not respecting the word failure, or the actions behind failure, is we miss the lessons learned and the ability to help support those lessons for other people, especially when other people are involved. And so it's interesting. I was having a recent conversation about children and the plight of the parents now, and what that looks like. And everything that's out there, the books, the social media, all the things that people have access to. But at the end of the day, you're still that parent for your children, and you were divinely purposed to be that parent. But it's hard. And you're running 175 businesses.
Slightly exaggerating.
But it
does feel like that.
It feels like that, I'm sure. And I love that your kids are involved, but that's hard. So talk to us for the moms out there, whether you're a working mom, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, being a mother, being a father, being a parent is a lot. And especially right now, talk to us about the resolve and kind of the resilience that you've had. It can be period, but just over the past couple of years, what that looks like. So it was a little bit of a different transition for me, because, before, when I was doing this, was kind of like a side hustle, I get my little freedom, but it's morphed, more into that for me. So since we've had the downtown store, it's required a little bit more of me being there. So Douglas is pretty much running the homeschool situation with the kids, and he helps with the business, and he does business consulting. But it was hard, because sometimes I feel like I was missing out on some of the things that were happening during the day. And you really have to know in your mind, like, I have this goal, I have this purpose. And before mommy leaves for work, it's go mommy, go make money, go help people, go do this, because obviously we're creating a living that's going to create the financial blessings so that we still can continue doing what we're doing. Absolutely.
But teaching the kids, we're a team. It's not just mommy going and doing this. hey guys, I had this idea. What do you think? And I let them be a part of it so that when I come back and show videos and show people crying of like how this moment helped them with the solution, and they're just like, oh, mommy, they feel connected and they feel a part. And I think that's been the biggest blessing, is making sure that they're a part of it all.
It's so cool because you can see so much of where that passion comes in for you, and with your children, you see that passion to just be part of the journey with you. And I think it's so beautiful. But you've also kind of touched on your mom some. I would love to give her the honor of talking about your mom. That's clearly been your inspiration and your passion. And I know that there are many people out there who've probably gone through a similar journey with you and your mom. So I'd love for you to kind of talk about that inspiration that is your mom and where that came from.
She was an amazing guide to me. And I told the kids, I'm like, she was such an incredible mom. I hope that I can be that for you. She was a Sunday school teacher, and she started teaching things that were a little risque for the Baptist kind of church. So her and my dad pretty much got kicked out of our first church because she was preaching about a white missionary going to Africa and helping witch doctors get saved, which I thought was cool. But then I was scared to death because I was like, what if God calls me to witch doctors? And I had this ministry set mindset, and I started going to Bible school. And she really cultivated like my heart for God and my intention-based living for God, honoring the purpose that I felt like He created me to do. But I felt like I really didn't know exactly what my purpose was. Like, I had ideas and I just kept flowing with it. And each kind of turn and twist led me in different directions. So that's where Douglas and I met, was at Bible school. I had every intention of doing missionary work. I wanted to help support orphanage homes and help Americans adopt children. And when Douglas and I first got, together, he said, well, how do you think, we're going to do this? And I was like, well, most missionaries go to church and they tell them what they're doing. And I think that's what my mom kind of thought that I was going into. But no matter direction or turn, she always encouraged me. Even if I had a down day, it was, Desheri, pick yourself up, brush yourself off, let's keep going. And that mindset, I think, really helped me, because as a senior in high school, you have your principal tell you you're not going to amount to anything.
Absolutely.
I think that could crush most people.
Absolutely.
But I think going home and telling my mom, and she's Italian, so I won't repeat everything she said after I told her that. But that next day, she drove me to school and she was dressed, ready. She marched herself into his office and shut the door. So I knew she had my back. And I think that was the thing, like, no matter what, if I knew that I was going to do something and I had my heart set on it, no matter what, she was the person that was always going to encourage me to keep going.
Do you feel her in kind of every movement that you're making? And I think about it especially as, the Deshi brand has been really building up some momentum over the past year.
Yeah.
Do you feel her kind of connected to that and engaged with that?
Mm-hmm. I do. Me and you are very similar. We're both go-getters. Like, I know that if I want to do something, I can get it done. But it's also one thing that she taught me is making sure that the timing is right.
Yes.
So this year has been a very interesting year, just with employment and, just not being able to do everything that we've been able to do, just maybe in the downtown store. And I want to go ahead and do something. I want to know how to go ahead and fix it. But I felt this kind of like step back and just say, okay, like, these are the areas. I know all of this is happening. I know this is all going on, but let me step back. Let me let this lead. Where is this taking me? Where is this taking me? And she taught me that from a very young age. And I can just sometimes, this is that feeling of, slow down.
Yes.
Take a deep breath. Like, that doesn't have to be answered right now.
Absolutely.
Like, get yourself in a good space before you respond. And that was the thing with languishing.
Yes.
we saw a lot of employees, like, I mean, a ton, Kristie, of people going through what they thought were mental issues and feeling like I had one employee said, I feel like I need to check myself in somewhere. And I'm like, sweetheart, like a lot of people are dealing with this, and education on these things are so important so you don't feel alone.
Yes.
You know?
Well, and talk to us a little bit about that, because I think you bring up a great point around the education. And I know you've taken a very purposeful direction in what that looks like and how we bridge the gap with balance and education. So Soul Solution, I know, is something that's new and fresh in building. So I would love for you to spend this time kind of talking a little bit about that.
So at the beginning of the year, I felt a shift happening just in corporations and business and entrepreneurships. And right before, the beginning of the year, I had a very incredible businessman tell me a story about a restaurant owner that he knew that would reinvent himself every couple years. He said the brand and the mission always stayed the same, but the freshness, like he would kind of adjust. And that just sat in my spirit, didn't know what was going on with it. And then at the beginning of the year, I said, oh, there's a shift happening. And I see these, wellness retreats kind of like pop up. I'm sure you see them, like your getaway spa day. I'm going to relax. And those are good. But what can we do like in everyday living? Like we shouldn't have to try to go to Costa Rica, and Costa Rica is absolutely beautiful. And I'm going to go to Costa Rica.
Yes.
But what can we do in our everyday life? So we set up a little wellness day, and it's called the Solution. And really, we set it up for healthcare professionals, CEOs, the heads of these corporations, that we could take a day where it was an internal work day. So we start the day with some education, describing what languishing is. We have a trauma counselor that's there that's teaching you how to scan your body for stress, how to go from a reactive place, because if something happens, like, there's just sometimes it's like, ooh, let me get that. But how do you step back to that reaction? How can I deal with it on a different way? Does it need my attention right now? Just thoughtful things that happen in life.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're not trying to take away someone's phone. You know what I mean? We're just trying to teach you how to deal with life.
Yes.
Then the next part of the day is our service, where we're teaching people how to tap into that intention space, how to create it, whether you're getting a massage, you're listening to a podcast, something that's going to feed your spirit, feed your soul goodness, because there's a lot of extra stuff that's always screaming at us.
Yes.
But just taking those couple, moments where you're just feeding your spirit, feeding your soul. And then we end the day with a gentle movement class and a sound bath, which is phenomenal.
It's just talking about it brings like so much balance and peace to what has been kind of a chaotic time for so many of us. And the timing of that is really perfect. And I say that for where we are at, across the world, but I also say that for you because an interesting fact of when a lot of this work was happening with Desheri, you were in just kind of a chaotic place in your life. And so it's crazy and interesting to me of how that chaos helped you breathe this space of peace and balance. And have you found that it's also helped you kind of bridge that gap within yourself as well, finding that peace and balance?
Definitely. Like you said, I have 6 children. Yes. I'm running a couple businesses. It gets chaotic. So I wanted to be a good example for my children, that they understand that situations, fires come up, you got your parents' health. I mean, you have your friends, like there's just always something that's going to happen. But how can you anchor your soul into the truth of who you're really created to be?
Yes. No, I love that. Because it's the who you're created to be, which I really think builds upon Fearlessly Made You and the conversation around that. Because I think we as people, I think this is an important message for so many people to remember is you were created to live out your own journey your way. And there are ways that we can do that in a healthy way.
Yes.
There are ways that we can do that in being intentional in what that journey looks like. But at the end of the day, it's still your journey and you own that. Yep. And I think you've done such a great job of being mindful of that and also teaching your children that. Yep. And so as we're, we've kind of touched on, kind of thoughts and things that you would share with people But I would love to know too, as you're kind of moving into the next phase of your journey, what does that look like? And how does that look as far as, continuing to cascade that legacy to your kids and share, having that fearless existence with people around you?
I think the phrase that I'm kind of in right now is create that space.
Yes, I like that.
Like we have to learn how to create our own space, because if you don't take ownership of your own life, because that's the only thing you can control.
Amen to that.
Right?
Yep.
Because I'd probably like to control a lot of other things, but
I think we all do.
Right. But owning the fact that I can control myself is by creating a space for me to hear.
Yes.
And with all of the social media, marketing, just we get flooded and inundated with a whole bunch of information, which can create your life.
Yes.
But you have to pause that so you can create your space so that you can actually hear who you're created to be.
Yes, I love that. And I think people need to hear that you can create your space.
You can.
So I think we sometimes forget that is up to us, and we have to be able to build that. It's funny, and I've talked about this in other podcast episodes, but one of my counselor that I've been going to throughout this year, we've talked about paying attention to where your space exists and giving yourself, whether it's in your home or whether it's in your car, wherever it is, giving yourself a safe space where there's no electronics, there's nothing else that's distracting you. It's just you being in a space to be. And that can often build some of those creative juices for people who are constantly feeling like everything is happening around them. But so for you too, you've talked about kind of your bath time is where you find your space. As you think about balance for you and you're creating this balance in this space for other people, but continuing to build balance into your life, continuing to build that safe space so you can continue to be who you are. Do you find that it's becoming more of a struggle, or you're being, like you mentioned, more intentional about it, so it's becoming more of a focus?
It's definitely more of a intention focus, because I feel like I've been working on me on this, and now I'm trying to create a platform to help other people.
Yes.
Because it may be easier for me in this area of my life, where it may not be easier in other areas that I need someone to help guide me.
Yes.
But I want to be the guide that creates the space for people to find those answers, which is the solution.
I like that. Have you been able, so as I think about that, I think about people who you have been able to connect with and who have kind of given you, whether it's that feedback or that ability to say, this is exactly what I'm looking at. If you were to, have you seen that in people as you're kind of watching the journey of your own life and how it's resonating with other people?
Oh, so most of my friends end up being, that I put through the process.
Yes.
So one of my really dear friends, she's fabulous. Like, she's a teacher. She's, married, she has a new little baby. She has 2 older girls, and she shows up and her hair's everywhere. And I'm like, so-and-so, I don't want to call her out. I'm like, do you remember driving here? And she was like, sadly enough, no. And I was like, okay. We get on automatic mode.
Yes.
So I was like, hey, I'm working this thing. Do you mind kind of going through this journey? So I created a day for her that was like excursions and experiences. And I set the whole day up that she came in and she did like massage and pedicure. And then we did like a fun little kayak on the water just for her to like see endless opportunities, because she has a passion that she's scared to step into. But that one day thrusted her into a new space. Wow. And she was just like, I would have never made myself do that. Like, thank you for making me do that. And the past 6 months, I've already seen progress in those areas.
It's great because you take the time to feed into people. You've done that with me. And it's that stepping into, I see a need and I know it's something where I can meet it. And I encourage us all to think about that too, because sometimes we see a need, but we're like, oh, I'm not the right person, or no, I'm not equipped to be able to do that. And stepping into the space where we've created some safety and some ability to think and innovate helps us be a little more like ourselves and love ourselves in a way where we can then share that with other people, which I love. So my very last question, because I think we've done such a great job of talking about balance and creating space, is creating space for wine. And so important. So we have our wine here, but if you were to share with everyone a go-to wine for you, what is your go-to wine?
It's my new one.
Yes.
Yes, it's a Pinot Noir, and it is called Sanctuary.
Love it.
You know,
I know, it's
perfect.
So it's perfect. I love that, because that really just embodies who you are and embodies you. And, you know, one of the things I do want to do is give people the chance to be part of your space. So if people wanted to contact you or reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So Instagram, direct message at Desheri McClure, which is DESHIMCCLURE.
Love it. Desh, I am just honored and grateful.
You've love you,
given
Kristie.
us such a beautiful conversation. And I'm just grateful to have you as part of the Fearlessly Made You crew and part of the Fearlessly Made You podcast. So guys, I can't say enough about being able to have Deshi in my life. And I'm glad you guys have all gotten the chance to learn just a little bit about one of my dear friends. So everyone stay tuned for the next episode of Fearlessly Made You.